heroes, your punks, your freaks, your geeks, your Greeks, your party animals, your gangsters, your commuters, your residents, your students, your alums, your lawyers, your truckers, your calls, your tweets. And we'll give you rock, classic, indie, punk, alternative, easy, hard, raps, rhymes, mixes, and drops. We'll give you kick-ass music because we're WPSC 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio. Sound good?
Well, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you. And yes, it is indeed a wonderful morning. The fact that we are still alive, the fact that we are still on the planet we know as Earth, we're still breathing, makes it a wonderful morning, because as long as there's life, there is hope. So if you are still alive, there is always hope. You are listening to another edition of The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. We come to you live each Saturday morning from 6 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock a.m. with The Reading Circle. And then from 7 to 9, we put on the good news and song, which is the gospel music. I'll tell you what, my guest is already right here in the studio with me, so we're going to go ahead and do our normal ritual and routine, which is I'm going to give you the weather. Then I'm going to read from two books, passages from those. I'm going to introduce my guests, give you what we call a public service announcement, which is some information that I'm going to share with you. And then while I'm doing that, you know what to do. Get on all your social media sites and let someone know that the Reading Circle is on the air on WP 88.7 FM and GoBrave.org. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let you know what's going on weather-wise in the northern New Jersey area. It is 32.1 degrees. This is the coldest day we've had this fall. And what I understand, it's going to warm back up again, because right now we're going to have a high of 39 with a low of 25, sunny to partly cloudy. Some clouds this evening that will give way to mainly clear skies. And then on tomorrow, Sunday, a mainly sunny sky, high of 43, low of 30, partly cloudy Sunday night. And then on Monday, mostly cloudy skies, high around 50. I told you we were coming back up into the warm temperatures, high of 50, low of 42. Mostly cloudy skies, considerable cloudiness on Monday night. And then on Tuesday, expect some rain, but a high of 57 and a low of 44. Rain showers early with overcast skies later in the day, partly cloudy skies during the evening, and then rounding out the forecast on Wednesday, cloudy with periods of rain, high of 58 again, a low of 55. Wednesday night, cloudy with periods of rain, low near 55. If you want to tune in, I tell your friends to tune in and text somebody, tweet somebody, tell them to get on their computers to Go Brave. That's GOBRAVE.org. Or if they're in the northern New Jersey area, they can catch us on WP 88.7 FM, as that weather was brought to you from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center. All right, I'm going to read from our two books. Today is December the 19th, from the book The Power of Being Thankful. You get to decide. On the glorious splendor of your majesty and on your windows' works, I will meditate. Much of our thinking is habitual. If we regularly think about God and good things, godly thoughts become natural. Thousands of thoughts flow through our minds every day. We may feel we have no control over them, but we do. Although we don't have to use any effort to think wrong thoughts, we have to use much effort to think good thoughts, especially while we are forming new habits and renewing our minds. God has given us the power to decide, to choose right thinking over wrong. But once we make that choice, we must continue to choose right thoughts. It's not a once and for all decision, but it does get easier. The more we fill our lives with reading the Bible, prayer, praise, and fellowship with other believers, the easier it is to continue choosing thankful, faith-filled, godly thoughts. Prayer of thanks. Father, I am so thankful that though many thoughts might flow through my mind each day, I get to decide which thoughts to dwell on. Today, with your help, I make a decision to choose right thinking over wrong thinking. Thank you that the more I do so, the easier it will become. That's from the book The Power of Being Thankful, and from Ian Van Zant's book Until Today for December the 19th. She says, I will know peace when I acknowledge that I have buttons that can be pushed. I know that's right. I just had that conversation last week. Let somebody push your buttons. Isn't it amazing that you can be kind and loving to one person and within moments bite someone else's head off? Of course you tell yourself it was their fault. You allow yourself to believe that it was the way they spoke to you or looked at you. It may seem to be true that while you can be on your best behavior with some people, other people seem to bring out the worst in you. Some people really know how to push your buttons. Oh, yes, they do. That's right. Your buttons. How you respond has nothing to do with anyone else. It's all about you. Your greatest adversary is also your greatest teacher. Like it or not, it is the job of certain people to bring out the worst in you. What they trigger is already in you. They have come to teach you what you are capable of doing when you are triggered, when your back goes up, when your claws come out. They have come to give you an opportunity to heal. These people love you so much that they have taken time out of their lives to come into your life to ruffle your feathers so that you can go within and heal. It may not feel like a wonderful experience, but just knowing that someone can get on your last nerve, can shake your foundation, can look in your kitchen and see your mess means that you have something that needs to be healed. The way they make you feel needs to be healed. What you think about them needs to be healed. Don't waste your time being mad at them. Be about the business of healing yourself. Until today, you may have believed that it was perfectly fine to be nice sometimes and wicked at others. Just for today, thank everyone and anyone who can push your buttons. Realize that they are providing you with a wonderful and divine opportunity for healing. So it says, today I am devoted to healing the sore, tender, wounded places in my heart and mind. That's from the book Until Today by Ian Van Zant. And you know, we read from those two books because it kicks the show off each morning in a wonderful way. And the mornings that I've had the opportunity, because it's rare that I don't get to read from those two books or the other one that I used to read from, What Can Happen When We Pray, the rest of the morning just flows. So that is the reason behind it. Kick off the show in a positive vein. And now it is time. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest, who's sitting right here in the studio to my left. Davey J. Morgan is a native of Paterson, New Jersey. He is a single father and a talented force to be reckoned with. Davey J. Morgan is an American entrepreneur with successful startups in media and in publishing. His entrepreneurial enterprises include not only a clothing line, but he writes, produces, and performs his own music, produces and acts in his own plays, is an accomplished photographer, and works on numerous other projects. So as soon as I share my public service announcement information with you, we will get underway with our interview. So don't you dare leave. You know what to do. You need to get on all your social media sites and let somebody know that Davey J. Morgan is on the air with me on the Reading Circle.
Hey, what's up? Thinking about you. XOXOXO. Want to snuggle. ... JK. Hit me back. You getting these texts? ? We should hang later. I miss you. Holla at ya, boy. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you at home? Where are you? What are you doing? OMG. You are making me mad. Are you with your ex? You better text me back. I'm waiting outside your house.
Relentless, aggressive texting is like sending an angry robot to deliver your message. When does the robot become dangerous? Let us know at that'snotcool.com.
That'snotcool.com.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
This year, firefighters like Fire Chief James Hall will battle wildfires around the country in hopes of containing them. But firefighters can't do it alone.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile, where it can ignite and destroy your home and community.
Get fire adapted. Learn simple steps you can take now to reduce wildfire damage later at fireadapted.org. A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council. Learn more at fireadapted.org.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
Yes, indeed. You are indeed listening to The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. As I said, we come to you live each Saturday morning. And this morning, my guest is actually in the studio with me. As those of you know, the bulk of my guests call in on the telephone because they're somewhere else in the country. But my guest this morning is local, and that is none other than Davey J. Morgan. And I've actually known Davey, and I didn't realize it was Davey until he walked in the door of which one it was, because I had been dealing with another friend of mine who was acting in terms of his manager. And whenever I saw the name, I did not connect that I actually knew the young man until he stepped in the door this morning. But Davey, welcome to the Reading Circle.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming out. He actually came out to the studio, and that's always fun because studio energy is a little bit different from telephone energy. So I'll tell you what, David, talk to me a little bit about, when did everything, I'm reading your bio about being an entrepreneur, writing music, and I knew about the plays.
Yeah.
That I knew about, but I didn't know about the music and the books and everything. Where did all this come from?
It's funny, I got my start at St. Luke doing the plays and stuff, and that kind of gave me the fire to kind of keep pushing out my artistic side. So I spent a few years with business doing a couple different things, and then I had a blessing to have my daughter, and in that time frame of having my daughter, that kind of made me want to follow my dreams and my pursuits, which is the writing, producing, and directing. So that's when I started writing the book. I just had an idea. I just want to put everything on paper because a lot of people kept saying they missed my plays. Like, I missed it. How can I see it? So I was like, I need to start doing something where people could always have access to it, type of thing. So that's why I got into writing the books and the music.
Were you doing that? Okay, you just said you kind of being at the church and writing the plays at the church kind of lit the fire, but were you doing that prior to that in school?
Yeah, I was. I initially got started in school. I went to school for theater, and that was a good start, but, a lot of theater majors, don't make any money, so I had to make that switch quick, so I made a switch to business. And, I was doing the business stuff for a few years, and then it kind of felt like a dead end. I wanted to do something that kind of, fueled my artistic passion, and that's when I got back into kind of taking my ideas a little bit more seriously and started to put things together. So.
I know that feeling. As a matter of fact, I majored in business my first time in college right here at William Patterson. And I was going to either major in music or either English. And my father was like, you're not going to make any money in either one of those.
Yeah.
And so that's when I switched my major to business. And I actually have graduated, worked in business for like 15 years, but my heart was always in education and teaching.
Yeah.
And so I left the business world and I went into education following my passion. Music is there too, as I shared with you. The music in the background is, that's my second CD. I have two. The first one was called Go Up on the Third Limb. This one's The Wrinkle Rag. But that's part of my passion as well.
Yeah.
And so to hear you going down that same track, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So now once you decided that, this is what I want to do, how'd you go about doing it? Because that's, for the listening audience, for a lot of people, they're in the same boat. Like, I really would love to do something else, but I have no clue as to how to get started.
Yeah.
How did you,
For me, I think what really pushed me was my pain. At the same time of, what artistic people, for you to create, you got to go through something, or for your heart to be on something. And I think that's what kind of motivated me to kind of get out there and, put my works out there to more people, because as an artist, it's too much to kind of hold these ideas in my head and in my heart, and like it's not therapeutic to keep all that in. So it's more therapeutic to kind of put that out there and just see what happens, man, because you never know. Like, your pain is somebody else's blessing because they can relate to it.
Absolutely right. Matter of fact, many of my guests, particularly my female guests, many of them, and it'll come out during the interview, many of them as children were molested or raped or something like that, and they got it out by writing. That's how their books came about, or some other bad experience. And you're right, their pain and their storm that they went through actually became a blessing for somebody else, because people would read their work and say, oh, I thought that was only me. I thought I was the only one going through that. I didn't. Or either they'll read the book and say, how'd you know? That was me. I mean, so a lot of times that happens. And you're absolutely right in terms of, because if you look, all the titles on all of my tracks have something to do with something, one way or other, either a passion or either something I've gone through or either a message I'm trying to send. Like Respect Your Father, that was for my daughters. That was that's where that came from, and I started writing that one out. And you know, the other ones have something to do with flight or something along. I love airplanes, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So, all right, you're very young. You're not like like an old man like me. You're like, so you're at the beginning of your career, or what's been going on in terms of getting this stuff out to the market?
So, it's funny. They say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success, and I think that's true in my situation because I've been writing and producing things since 17, when I used to write skits for Planned Parenthood and do local stuff, and then the St. Luke drama ministry, and years of that stuff, kind of getting my toes in the water and getting a feel for how people liked my works. And it only grew from there. As I got older, I matured. I took my craft seriously. I met other writers that kind of helped me with my everything, as far as my music and the books. So yeah, I'm still young, but the fact that my book is just catching fire is very important right now. We're getting close to what my goal is in 2016 to be at 1,000 copies sold. So right now we're about to pass 400 mark. Okay. So it's only been out for like a year, but the hard copies just recently came out. So you self-published, or did you go through a publishing house? No, I self-published. Okay, because I tell people all the time, in many of my interviews, many of my guests have self-published, even that's self-published. And so the technology, we were just laughing about that. Yeah. The technology allows us to do that. Yeah. Because years ago, that technology wasn't there. You had to go through a publishing house. Yeah. And that way you had to get like 1,000 rejection letters. And then finally one would say, yes, we like your concept, we're going to go with it. And then even then, they kind of tell you what you can and can't do. Say it like this, put this cover on there. Self-publishing, you're on your own. Exactly. Now, the only flip side to that is that means all the editing and everything else, because what you don't want to have happen is when you self-publish that you give people a bunch of crap. Exactly. Because that gives, like, the self-publishing thing, it gives it a black eye. Yeah. So those of who self-publish, we have to make sure we're on point. Exactly. Because we don't want to give that industry, people say, I'm not going to buy self-published work because it's always filled with errors, a bunch of grammatical errors, spelling errors, this, that, and the other. So we have to make sure we're on point. So, all right, so you're almost halfway to your goal of at least, you'll get there. Don't worry about it. You'll get there. And in terms of what you do, you're in one of the two best places to do it in, as either East Coast New York or West Coast Los Angeles. Yeah. That's the two places to be. Yeah. So, I mean, are you doing anything out of New York? As of right now, yes. This year we want to really start pushing the book more so in this New York market. So I have a meeting with a publicist, a pretty big publicist pretty soon, that's going to take this a step further. I think being self-published, that kind of gave me the ownership of everything. I got a well-known editor to go over my work, so it's A100, and from the cover to the inside of the book, everything about it is screaming a success. So yeah, I know that's right. If you just joined us, and I hope you've been with us since 6, my guest is Davey J. Morgan. We're going to be talking about eventually his book, Before I Say I Do. But we're working our way up to that because Davey does not just write books, he also writes music, he produces and acts in his own plays. And I've seen some of Davey's plays that he's written and produced and starred in at our church. And now he's branched out and he's taken it out even further than just the church. And that's what we're talking about as we work our way up to Before I Say I Do. So do you have any aspirations of like writing a play that will wind up on Broadway? Yeah, most definitely. I've been sitting on probably 15 plays, and what I'm working on right now is a better situation to kind of, be at a well-to-do theater and start really getting it out there, because there's so many different stories that I want to tell that people have yet to see. So, eventually I'm definitely going to do that.
Well, you're in the right place. Again, most of this business, in the music business, the acting business, all it is really about networking and making connections.
Exactly.
And that one connection might be the one that pulls you over.
Yeah.
And that's why you constantly have to keep getting out there. You have to keep talking to folks. Social media has been an absolute blessing. I mean, if you're not already doing, which my guess is you are, I would work social media silly.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And because social media to me is extremely interesting, and I'll tell you why. Because whenever I was a kid and I was younger, a little bit younger than you, social media didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So if you had a star that you liked, or a baseball player or a football player, whatever, the only way you can get in touch with him or her would be to write a letter to the stadium. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, let's say, for example, if I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I'd have to write a letter to whoever the Pittsburgh Steelers. You never got a return.
Yeah.
You never, did they get it? I don't know. But social media, if you can connect with them at their, whatever their address is, their name or whatever it is, they respond back. I've been in touch with people from all walks of life on social media, and they respond back. I've had Judge Hatchett on the show. I've had Martin Luther King's niece on the show. I've had, I've had, I don't know if you remember Bertice Berry. Years ago, she had a show, the Bertice Berry Show. She's been on here. I've had, I'm trying to think of some other things because the list is long over the 14 years, but I've had the famous and the not so famous. I've had the international and the local. And a lot of that came through social media. It's just, you know what? I'm the host of a radio show. Would you like to be a guest? I read your book. I did this and the other. So the more you can work it, get on LinkedIn, get on, of course, Facebook. Yeah. But folks respond. I've had athletes on here. J.J. Burden that used to play for the Kansas City Chiefs, him on here. I've had back again way before you were born, Burgess Owens used to play for the Jets. So my point is, folks respond to social media, and you never know that one contact that once you send a transcript or either a script of your play, that somebody on social media say, you know what, I'm gonna fund that.
Yeah.
You know what? Come to this theater. You know what? Come on over to the city because you're already here. You're at New York.
Exactly.
Come over to Manhattan. I want to meet with you. You never know. All right. So I tell you what, we're going to share some more information with you. Let someone know that a young man with aspirations, a young African-American male who has aspirations, who is already succeeding and who is looking to go higher, is on the air with me. And I'm saying that because most of the time when you listen to shows or when you watch the news, in particular, what you hear about African-American males is either they're getting shot or shooting somebody or going to jail or this, that, and the other. That's not the case this morning sitting to my left. Davey is already on his way, and he's constantly looking for more ways to be a success. Let somebody know that that's the type of young man I have on the air with me this morning. Tell them to go to gobrave.org, or tell them to go, if they're here in the northern New Jersey area, WP 88.7 FM.
In 50 feet, turn left. Why are you driving so slowly?
After a few drinks, I'm taking it slow.
Well, you're not fooling the cop behind you.
What?
Get ready to pay in 0.1 miles.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't seen your lap in months. And even more stuff. But still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Yo, it's the Hip Hop Shop. Best believe that we're hot. Nikki V and Dylan B.
Dude, are you rapping to yourself again?
It's a promo for the Hip Hop Shop, dude.
That made Vanilla Ice sound dope.
Well, how about you think of something better?
How about we just promote the show, considering this is a promo?
I mean, I guess we could do that.
Tune into the Hip Hop Shop, Sunday nights 9 to 11 p.m. on Brave New Radio.
We've got interviews,
freestyles,
hip-hop talk,
the freshest hip-hop music.
From the 80s,
90s,
2000s,
and the 2010s.
And if you'd like to take on one of the kings, we've got rap battles all night.
The Hip Hop Shop, 9 to 11 p.m. Sundays with DJ Nick Visco and Dylan Burns. You're not going to want to miss this.
Want to expand your horizons? Want to broaden your mind? Well, listen to the only show of its kind. Listen to The Reading Circle.
We bring you what's going on in the world of reading, in the world of books. Sometimes the book may be from 20, 30 years ago, because the thing about books, they are timeless, particularly if there's a good message. And then there are times when we do books that are hot off the press, that were just released.
Listen to The Reading Circle every Saturday morning from 6 a.m.
The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley.
Only on WP 88.7 FM.
All right. I told you I got out of the habit of saying that we were taking a break and going anywhere, because we really don't move. We stay right where we are. All I do is share the information with you. And the only thing I ask that you do is, while you're listening to the information that I'm sharing, that is very important, I also want you to be on your social media sites typing as well, just as I was just doing. Put it out to all your sites that Davey J. Morgan is on the air with me. And tell somebody to wake up, get up, text them. Wake them up just like Tim woke Davey up. Tim woke Davey up. Tim is his manager, his management company. He said Tim woke him up and said, get over to 300 Pompton Road now. Get over there quickly. Tim, shout outs to you. Big shout outs. I know you ought to be listening. If not, you'll catch the recording. But if you got up and woke Davey up, you're up and you're listening. Thank you. But Tim sent me an email last night and asked for the address and everything of the studio, and I misread it because I'm so used to giving the telephone number. So I gave out the telephone number, the time and everything, and I didn't look at my email again because I was out running errands. I came home, cooked dinner, went to bed. Didn't see the email till this morning whenever I woke up, and I was like, oh my God, he asked for the address. Sent him the address like 5 o'clock this morning. So I'm still thinking Davey was going to call in. So Davey calls me on the phone. And he says, I'm downstairs. Like, what? You're downstairs. He was downstairs. So hence he is here with me. And he is the author of the book, Before I Say I Do. And as I shared with you before we shared the information, not only has he written the book, but he has a clothing line, writes, produces, and performs his own music, writes, produces, and acts in his own plays. And he has the book, and I have it in my hot hand, Before I Say I Do. All right, so this is what we do with the book. We want to whet the appetite of the audience. We don't want to give them the ending, but we do want to whet their appetite enough that they will go to Amazon or whatever their favorite book retailer is and say, I want to get a copy of Before I Say I Do. So my first question is, all right, where did the concept come from?
So the concept, it's interesting. It came to me at a time when I was going through my situation with the young lady I was talking to at the time. We were getting ready for marriage and everything like that. and it kind of popped in my head, like, before I say I do, me as a man, I need to get some things right. Because I think with men, before we settle down, we want to make sure that we got, our I's dotted and our T's crossed, because that was the biggest thing for me. I just wanted to make sure that I was right as a person before I said I do. That's where the title came from.
Well, I tell you what, there is something to that, and that is, and this is for anybody who's listening, there's some free advice for you. Before you even think about a relationship or marriage, love yourself first. You've got to love you, because if you're looking for somebody else to fulfill that void, it's going to be a mess. And that goes for male or female. You need to love you, as Davey was saying. Get some things together. Get some things right with you. Now, I'm going to give some advice that was given to me that I did not follow. Not that it turned out for the worst, but it didn't turn out for the best in the long run either. So when I do talk to young people, I say, look, this is what you do. You get your education, whatever education is for you. Take some time to be on your own. Take some time to have a roommate or be on your own, live in your own apartment. Get used to being with just you. Travel. Go to a chance to see the country. Go see the United States. Go see the world. And if you have a significant other or what have you, then great. They can do that with you for a little while. But get all those things out the way first. Yeah, exactly. Get those things out. And then you with your partner, you do those things with your partner once, because that way, hey, you know what, whether you with me, whether you're not with me, I'm still going to enjoy life.
Exactly.
And so, but it's because if you're dependent upon that other person and for you to enjoy life, what happens if the other person leave?
Exactly.
What happens if the other person disappoints you, or they don't do what you want to do, and all that kind of stuff? So your best bet is to love you first. So I'm with him there. So, okay, you got this ideal of, all right, there's some things I need to do as a man before we get together, this and the other. Well, how do you start now and put it pen to paper?
So the idea for the title came to me, and then what I decided to do as well is I wanted to talk about a character that who kind of resembled me in some situations, but I could kind of play with that whole story. So the character name is Dion, and Dion, at that time, he writes a national bestseller called Indigo Inferno, about like his love interest with a woman that was forbidden at a time when it was black and white. So he falls in love with her, and their love causes a huge kind of rivalry down south. So he writes his national bestseller, and next thing you know, his life changes overnight. So he's been with his longtime girlfriend. He's like, you know what? I'm ready to settle down. Everything's looking good. The finances are coming in now. The celebrity is there, and he announces to the world that he's making her his wife. But when he announces that, it just so happens that the women in his past try to come back into his life to win him over. So they're like, hold up. Before you marry her, we need to just, close these chapters. So if you read the book, you're going to try to figure out, does he stay with his longtime girlfriend, or does he fall to the desires of, wickedness? And, that's what it's about.
Now, it's so the current relationship in the book is an interracial.
No, right now it's about African American, but the book Indigo Inferno is about interracial.
So his book is about interracial. The reason I'm asking, because my guest last week, that's what the show was about. She wrote a book about being in an interracial relationship. She was married, it's interracial marriage, and her book title is Freedom to Choose.
Yeah.
Does color really matter? And so it's interesting that you would bring that up, that your character wrote a book about interracial relationships. Okay, so now, all right, character development, because you said, I kind of wanted to pattern the character kind of after me.
Yeah.
Well, how did you do your character development? Now, I always ask this question to my authors because the answers vary.
Yeah.
So what? I've really heard from the sublime to the ridiculous, but whatever works in terms of, some people say my characters sleep with me, they walk with me, they talk with me when I'm on the train, they're sitting next to me. Yeah. Others, have told me I intended to do this with that character, but after I got to know the character, I couldn't do it. I was going to kill him off by the end, but I got to know the character and I couldn't do it. I had to rewrite what I was. So what's up with character development?
So for me, what character development always happens is, I start off with a name. And based off of that name, I just let those characters kind of talk to me. Who is this person, and what does this person like to do? What makes this person? The good, the bad, the ugly. And then when I draw these kind of charts based on the characters that I have, then I know who these characters are and how they will interact with other characters that's going to be in the story. And that's how I kind of do my character development.
As they're interacting with the other characters, what is that like? How do you get them to? Of course, we usually have some type of a conflict or something going on, but do they actually? Because like I said, I had an author that said this particular character, I was going to kill him off, but I got attached to him.
Yeah, that happens.
and I couldn't do it. So I had. So do you? How do you get them to do what they do with each other? Yeah.
It starts off with just your imagination, and you're just working the characters and you're working the story, and then it just like develops.
I'm glad you brought up that word imagination, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because you're young.
Yeah.
And you came up in the age of Xbox and PlayStation and all the video games and all that.
Yeah.
Many young people, and I don't want to paint a broad brush, but many young people don't have that thing anymore called imagination.
Wow.
Because the technology for a lot has stripped that out. I mean, all they do around all day is sit around and they do this thing with the thumbs and so forth and so on. Or either they're on their phones or either they're watching videos. So the imagination for a lot of people, they don't have it. I mean, I work with kids every day, and I'm like, just make up a story. No clue. No clue. It doesn't matter. Just make something up. Yeah. So where is this thing like imagination? Where for you does that come from?
I think it's a gift that God gave me. Honestly, I think it's tied into my vision, my purpose. So back in school, they used to call it daydreaming, but I always had a good imagination, and that kind of just rolls over into different things, which is cool.
It's interesting. Davey just said something about daydreaming. I'm telling you, folks, working with children every day, or at least the audience of children that I work with, a lot of those skills that Davey are talking about are not there unless they find themselves in some trouble. And that imagination kicks in real quick. They're like, boy, that's a good lie there. You made that one up. Can you do that in your language arts class? Or you call it.
Yeah, exactly.
But for the most part, and I love to have fun, don't mind me, I love to laugh, I love to play, but for the most part, a lot of our children really don't have the imagination skills. And then whenever you get to the point of say, okay, can you write me a story? Now, Davey has written a book. So as you wrote through the book, as you said a lot in the beginning of the interview, you said a lot of times whenever we write or do what we do, it's because of an experience or because of pain. Was there pain that kind of brought that about?
Yeah, it definitely was. It kind of initially started with the breakup that I had. Initially, with my daughter's mother, we were planning on marriage and everything like that, and it just fell through. And rather than kind of, withdraw with all that pain and everything like that, I kind of listened to my mentors and, and I was like, you know what, let me put the pen to the paper. Let me talk about some of the stuff that I went through and kind of put a spin on it and just make something positive out of a negative situation.
For the people that's read the book, have they come up to you and said, is that you? Or were you talking about yourself? Or who, or could characters, because a lot of times what authors do is the real people in their lives actually become characters in the book. You just change the name to protect the guilty. I mean, did you have people that came and said, is that?
I definitely did. I had people like, is that such and such? Is that? But honestly, it was, Dion was, I would say like 60% of me. Then the other stuff was just like, some made up stuff. But the other characters are just made up. And then I get that all the time from the guy on the cover of the model I use. They're like, is that you? to everything. And then it's an interesting thing. So.
Yeah, it is. I've had authors, and I was sharing this a few weeks ago. Matter of fact, I shared it one night in Bible study with Reverend Clayton. I've had authors who are members of churches or what have you, and they've written books. And for some reason, I don't know why church people think sex is taboo. I don't get that, because we're all sitting there. We had to get there some way, and most of them, if not all of them, have kids.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't get why you go ballistic over the sex thing. So I've had authors, and I haven't read your book yet, so I don't know if one is in there, but I've had authors that has racy sex scenes or whatever in their book, and they said their congregants, a lot of them turned on them whenever they read their book. They're like, oh well. And I'm saying, but sex is a natural part of life. I don't get what, people that go to church have sex. I don't get why, you would be turned on.
Why you'd be turned off by it.
In terms of, because your book has a sex scene in there and you go to church, or you're a Christian, or you're what have you. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read that, but do you have anything where somebody would say, well, I wouldn't expect that to come out of you, or?
Oh, most definitely. It's some romance novel. So, a lot of people will say that, but it's funny because the biggest supporters are church people, because they know who I am as a writer.
Okay, so then, all right, so yours is the reverse.
So it's the reverse for me.
All right, because I've had some authors said, no, my church folks turned on me. That, they read my book and either they thought it was me, or either they turned on me because I had a sex scene in there. And I said, that doesn't make sense to me. But I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. So you're dealing with some people who have some common sense, sounds like.
Exactly. For me, I think it's a romance novel, but at the same time, it's a really good read. So that's why I think it wasn't turned off, because the way it's done is tasteful. It's not just thrown in there crazy. It's just really tasteful, and it's from the moment you start the first page, it's a quick read. It's just wow, that book was great. I want the second part. Now,
and interestingly enough, because the bulk of my romance writers are female, and this is a male who's writing a romance novel. Have you got any? Yeah. Because I've had like Omar Tyree on the show. He's been on, and he's written a little bit of all of it. So, I mean, have you got any pushback or anything about writing a romance novel?
No, it's funny because usually, like you say, men will catch slack about writing romance novels, but I haven't. Like, from males and females, it's been positive. I haven't heard anything negative as far as the romance novels. And the way that I write it as well is kind of done in a way, like I said, is tasteful and people get it. And I think my biggest motivator for this book was Michael Baisden.
Okay.
So that kind of got me the way we kind of write in a similar fashion.
Right.
So when I saw that, I was like, wow.
Oh, yeah, because, it's fun. I've had authors on, men who wrote poetry books.
Yeah.
Okay. And I asked him that same question. Yo, man, do you catch a lot of flack from the brothers about? He said, brother, let me tell you something. If you are a male and write a poetry book, you have more women than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
He said, as a male writer who has written a poetry book, I'm telling you, if you are a male and can write poetry, it's not an issue of the brothers. You will have more women than you could shake a stick at. He said, that's not an issue whatsoever. And my guess is it's the same thing with the romance novels.
It is, and it's it's a great kind of experience when a lot of those female, because all my supporters from day one have been females. So as I transition even into writing music and stuff like that, they've always been around. And he's, what, can you write a book? And then that's what I've done. And they're like, wow, we love this book. And I'm just going to keep feeding them what they want because they've been with me since day one, and it's only growing. You
hit right there the key to success.
Yeah.
Fill a need and fill it, and then once you fill that need and you have an audience who give them more, just keep giving them what they want and they will keep buying. So whenever you now made the decision to put the pen to paper, you had to now go through the whole business thing, because there's two parts of being an artist. There is the artistic side or the talent, and then there's the business side. That's selling.
Yeah.
Do you like both, or like one over the other? Or because a lot of people are like, you know what, I love the talent piece, but I don't want to be bothered with the selling. And some people are like, I actually like the selling piece. I like being out there, so forth and so on.
I love both. Honestly, to me, it just, I don't know, God just blessed me with so many gifts. And to me, selling is an art form. And, you have to be good with words. The way you say something makes or breaks the sale. And then if you have a really great product, if you're putting it out there and you're just motivated and making those different connections, it's going to sell. So, from the initial sale to actually getting people out there to read the book is totally a good thing.
It is. Now, see, the reason this show came about was to get people to read more. I don't care what you read, as long as it's age appropriate. I really don't care, as long as you're reading. The point is, read more. Davey has written a book, and like he said, it is a quick read. I can see the sides of it. And I'm quite sure once you start, you don't want to put it down.
Exactly.
I mean, it's one of those. Even how did you select the cover? Because you said many people ask you, is that you? And a lot of time, we were talking about with self-publishing, you can do your own thing. If it was a publishing house, they would have to say, yeah, I like it. No, I don't like it. Let's do this. How did you come upon the cover?
So I actually had a vision. When I had the title, I went to sleep and I saw, a model, half of the face kind of showing with like the mystery. So you don't really see the eyes, just the lips. And then him kind of unbuttoning his tie, like a tuxedo look, like what's about to happen. And before I say I do on fire, and you have the wedding rings in between that. So and it stuck with me to the point where I got out there, I got a graphic artist, and I was just drilling them like I needed to look exactly like this. Many edits had to come into that to get with the product that I
wanted. Got a chance to direct the process.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in terms of now back going to the pen and paper, did you just sit down at your computer and type it out, or what? How did that go? I mean, when was your time to write? Because many people, they say early morning, some say late night, some say on the bus, on the train, on
early mornings.
Early morning.
For me, yeah, 5 o'clock in the morning is when I do all my artistic stuff, because you got to be artistic before you go out there and do the business. So I try to get that done before anything else. So.
And right now, in terms of your marketing, because I know, you're another one, like when you walked through that door, it's the same reaction I had with Fetty Wap. I didn't realize I knew Fetty Wap till I saw his picture, I saw his real name. Yeah. And Fetty Wap used to be one of my students when I was teaching at School 6. And I didn't realize that until I happened to be on Facebook one day and I saw an award that the mayor gave him that used his real name.
Yeah.
I looked at the name and said, and then I looked at the face, that is him. But my point with sharing that story is, Fetty was actually selling his CDs out the trunk of his car whenever he got discovered.
Exactly.
Is that kind of, and Michael Basin, the same thing. Michael Basin will tell the story how he wrote his books and he was peddling out the trunk of his car. He went to publishing houses. They all said no. Then he did it out the trunk of his car and the books went viral. Now the publishing companies came to him. Would you like to write it? No.
Exactly.
So how are you going about letting everybody know about the book?
Same thing, out the trunk of the car, showing up places and, just giving it to people. And I think the great thing about it, if you are an artist but you really have a great product, you shouldn't be afraid to tell people about it, because it's going to sell. It's going to sell.
Absolutely. And like I said, with social media, you can find out where people are and just send them a copy of the book. You can send Michael Basin a copy of the book. I don't know if you have already, but you can. Yeah. You look Michael up, either get on Facebook. You know what? I've written a book. I really like you to. I'm gonna give you a free copy of it. I really like to look this over. If you can help me out, yeah. The sky is not even the limit anymore with social media.
Exactly.
What's his name? Russell Simmons. He's another. I mean, I tried to send my CD to Russ, but all of the addresses were wrong, so they all came back. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take the time to try to figure out the right address, because I sent one to the LA address and one to the New York address, and both of them came back. So obviously he'd moved to somewhere else. But my point is, there's nothing stopping you from running extra copies to send to various people, again, increasing that network.
Yeah.
And like I said, social media, when social media first came out, because I knew it was for kids, the first one was MySpace. I'm like, I don't have no time for that. No. Then Facebook came and everybody's like, man, you got to get on Facebook, you got to get on Facebook. I said, that's for the kids. I don't know. But somewhere along the way, it struck me, the business side. Yeah. Whoa, I can promote the show through this.
Yeah.
And so now I set up a page that was just for the show and so forth. The bulk of my guests since social media came out have come through social media. That's the bulk of it. So I'm saying all that to say that there is nothing stopping you from whoever you think is the most famous person in the world from getting a copy of Before I Say I Do in their hands.
Yeah.
Because the access is there. Exactly. Take it. And so if you've just joined us, and I hope you've been with us since the 6 o'clock hour, because Davey has inspired me as a young man, seeing him coming up. Nothing warms my heart more than to see somebody who is much younger than me who's coming up the path. Because when you deal with negativity all the time, in terms of every time you turn on the news, black man shot, black man shooting, black man criminal, black man going to jail. And it doesn't have to be just black. I'm just using black as an example because that's what we hear all the time. But it does my heart good to see a young man doing something positive, who has a vision where he intends to go. And I will tell you this, Davey. Most people who are super successful knew what they wanted to do at a very young age. And the people I always use as examples are Bill Clinton and Kenny G. Two different things. One politics, one music. Both of them at very young ages said, that's what I'm going to do. And they put everything in motion. Every move they made was to support that vision.
Exactly.
And they got there. My guess is the same thing's going to happen with you.
Exactly.
Because you're making all the moves you need to make. Like I said, make your connections, get that book out to folks, and get your plays out to people. They had something on the news the other day about when Broadway almost went bankrupt. And the folks who wrote Cats, and it was a few other plays that the people, when they presented the concept, got laughed at. And they're like, all right, no, don't worry about it. Then they got somebody to fund them, and it wound up being the biggest show in history, Cats and a couple of other shows, Chorus Line and some of the other, shows like that saved Broadway.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. Those shows saved Broadway, and now Broadway's multi-billion-dollar industry. Same thing. You never know who's going to be the one to say, I want to fund that young man.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that young man's going somewhere. I'm going to put my money behind him. You never know. The book is Before I Say I Do. Davey J. Morgan. What are some of your play titles?
So some of the play titles we have right now is called City of Silk, which is going to be based on, the inner city struggles of people trying to make it outside of the urban culture. Latin Love, so many of them, so many new stuff that we have coming out. And then the follow-up to this book, which is After I Say I Do.
Now you got Before I Say I Do, and then After I Say I Do. It's a little series coming there.
Exactly. So we have, it is a series. It's Before I Say I Do, After I Say I Do, and I Still Do. So,
What was it like for you? And this is one of my standard questions. I tell authors all the time, I don't have, as you can see, I don't have a question sheet in front of me. I base my questions on your responses. But a couple of questions I really do kind of ask everybody. At some point in time, a box had to come to you with these in it.
Yeah.
When you opened that box and you saw Davey J. Morgan on there, what was that like for you?
I'm not gonna lie, I shed a tear too. I did, because as an artist, it's like to see the final product of what's inside your mind and your heart. It doesn't matter if it's as simple. It's just a big step because you believed in it so much before it even materialized.
No, you're absolutely right. And I love to ask that question because I've experienced it.
Yeah.
When my box came in of these,
yeah,
man, I was jumping around the house. I was like, wow, my name on a CD. Have you ever had this? Because I've had this even now, because I use this as backdrop music for the show. There are times I'll listen to it like, wow, whoa, that I actually played that. Have you reread the book or read the book through and say, wow, I wrote that?
Yeah, it's funny because when I reread it, it's just I've saw it from the average person's perspective. Like when I first did it, I kind of saw it from my eyes only. But then I was like, let me enjoy my book. Let me sit down and read it. And it was an eye opener. It was just like, wow, because I've had women crying, telling me, wow, this book was so good, I can relate to it. And men like, yo, I don't even read books. but I read that, yo, that's good stuff. Like strong, muscle-bound dudes, like, yeah, man, I can read stuff like this. It's crazy.
Then you got it then.
Exactly.
When you get somebody to say, yo, I don't even usually read, but I read that, you got it. You got it there. But it is because you're right in terms of an artist. The end product is something that came out of the artist. All right. Now, for us who are believers, it came through the artist. God, through the artist, got this out. Okay. So it's sometimes, in many cases for the artist, sometimes we don't even realize. Like I said, when I listen to the CD, I'm like, wow, I don't even remember playing that lick. It's like,
exactly.
But you listen to it, it's like, wow. And it all kind of just fits together. And I'm sure you'll go through in either a chapter or a paragraph or a phrase or whatever and say, wow, I didn't even realize I phrased it that way. I didn't even realize. So it's just one of the, and you're right in terms of when you get that final product and it's like, wow, because everything that you put into it. And the other piece of it, you get a chance to share a piece of yourself with other people.
Exactly.
You're actually, believe it or not, you're leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. If you live to be 100 years old, a copy of this book is going to be around somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere in somebody's trunk, in somebody's, and when I say trunk, I'm talking about like a treasure trunk, in somebody's library, in somebody's something. You might be dead and gone, and somebody's going to have a copy of this book.
Yeah.
All right. So you're leaving a legacy for your daughter and any other children or anybody else to come along. Hey, that was my dad that did that, So it is, I'm telling you, for those of us who are in the arts, it is a wonderful thing, because if you want to leave a piece of yourself when you're no longer on the face of the earth, you can do it through the arts, whether it's painting, whether it's acting, whether it's writing, whether it's music, whatever it is, you have the opportunity to do that. Interesting enough, I was watching The Jeffersons last night, and I was like, wow, a lot of the actors in that show are dead. They're dead. I'm saying a lot of the old comedies from the 60s, 70s, whatever, they're gone, but their legacy is still there. Same thing with this. Somewhere, the most obscure place that you could possibly think of, somewhere this book is going to still be here at some point. With technology and social media and stuff, this could be around the world. Like somewhere in Africa, somewhere in Asia, somewhere in China. Your book is over there. So, I'm proud of you. I really am. I'm going to definitely thank you for my copy. He brought a copy. He came bearing gifts. He brought a copy of the book with him for me, and I will be reading it. And for sure, this is the last part of the interview. And what I do is I turn the mic over to you in terms of shout outs. In terms of if you're doing any book signings, websites, how they can get the book, where they can get the book, you can say anything with the exception of a dollar amount. So long as you don't say a price, you're free to say anything else you want. You can shout Tim out. You can shout out your daughter. You can shout out anybody you want to shout out. I'm going to turn my mic off, and your mic will stay on, and it's yours.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I just want to say thank you, Marc, again for having me up here. This was awesome. Want to shout out Tim, BRL Artist Management, Chic, HQMG, JP, We Focus Media Group. I also want to give a huge shout out to my baby girl who just turned 4 years old today, Ariel Morgan. Daddy loves you. Happy birthday, baby. I also want to give a major shout out to all my friends, family, and fans from all over the place for you guys supporting the book and making it do what it's been doing. recently. And if you want to get a copy of the book, it's available in all formats right now. It's on barnesandnobles.com, amazon.com, everywhere. iBooks, you can find it. Just type in Before I Say I Do by Davey J. Morgan. So that's Before I Say I Do by Davey J. Morgan, D-A-V-E-Y, the letter J, Morgan. And I really want to bless you with this copy. It's the first of the series, and we're looking forward to dropping the new ones coming up pretty soon.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to have to autograph mine.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll tell you why, because whenever you hit it big, I'm going to say, I knew Davey when. Whenever he hit like the big time, I got my copy autographed when Davey did my show first. Whenever you,
exactly.
Whenever you're like on all the major networks and you're all over the place, Davey did the reading circle first. I have my signed copy now. So it has been a pleasure to have you on the air. I've had a blast with you. This is my last show of 2015 because I'm actually not going to be in the studio next Saturday morning. I'm going to take off for the Christmas holiday and New Year's. I may or may not be here that day after. I don't know. But certainly by the time I come back again, God willing, it will be 2016. So this is my last interview for 2015. And it's been what a way to close out the year with a young man who is going somewhere, with a young man who is doing something positive, who is not out here falling into the stereotypes, falling into the myths, and in some respects, the reality. But this is someone who is counter to that, who is doing something positive in terms of the writing, in terms of his plays, in terms of his music, in terms of his clothing line. So he got a lot going on for a young man. So I encourage you to support his efforts. And I'm going to have him back on the show at some point to talk about his next release and some of the other work, his clothing line, so forth and so on. I'm going to have Davey back on so we can talk a little bit about that. But with that being said, this is the end of another edition of the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. And again, this is the last interview for 2015, but we're already setting the calendar for 2016. I already have my first few Saturdays for 2016 already booked, and we're continuing to put the calendar together. So with that being said, I'm going to let Davey out. I'm going to let you play the music and listen to the music, shall I say, a little bit, and then I'll come back and give you the weather and all that stuff again, and we'll put on the gospel music, and I'm going to mix some Christmas jazz in for the next couple hours. Since we are right here before Christmas, I'm going to put some Christmas jazz on in there as well. So don't you dare move. Let somebody know to tune in to GoBrave.org right now.